pocket door frame. It's a 32 by 83. Due to height constraints, where the size of my building is less than 83 inches, I had to cut the bottom. Well, I cut the top on this because I didn't understand how it went together. The instructions aren't very clear. So the rough opening everybody's asking for, once you get this header piece on, which you have to take the header, I've got another one over here. This piece right here goes, let's see, which one's the top? Alright, you see the little plate in there, that's the bottom. And then this top. And this piece goes in the top. This piece sticking out goes inside the pocket here. Alright, now this one was damaged, but I can fix it. It's not hard to fix, but that rail piece goes in this pocket. The piece with the wood hanging down goes out on this end, and then the smaller piece goes in this end. And you can take some small screws, like I've got these small screws, pre-drill your holes. I forget what size that is, just a little bit smaller than that screw. Pre-drill your holes, and it'll hold together real well. See, I've got mine screwed in right there. What I was talking about on the rail part, see this smaller piece right there goes in here. And then the piece with the trim pieces, which like I said, there's no clear instructions. These measure out 4 inches. So you'll have to, if you're stick framing, you'll be fine, 1/2 inch on each side. If you're doing it this way, you'll have to put a 1/2 inch shim underneath this plate, and then, well, you cut this plate out. I'm sorry, I messed up. This plate, so the top goes against that stud there, and this is the opening. You'll put a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch piece of trim on this side, and you'll then you put when your drywall's on there, it sticks up a 1/2 inch. You want a 3/4 inch on each side of your trim piece, and then you'll have trim going over top this way. It's hard to explain without having the trim there. I may make another video, but anyway, so yeah, you need to put a 1/2 inch shim if you're doing it on the floor underneath. Well, shoot, I keep messing up. You're going to cut from this stud over to this side. This side is going to have a stud going up, so you need to cut this plate the same size as this roller header here. You measure that. Here, I'll get a tape measure and show you. So you take and measure this. You go from this end all the way to this end. I included an 1/8 inch for that plate, because that plate's got like an 1/8 inch. So I've got 64 and about an 1/8. You can't see it on the tape measure, but it's about, yeah, maybe, maybe 64 and a half. is what I've got, including the plate. So, and that may be, I think it's supposed to be like 64 1/8. And but you'll measure that header there, and that's what you cut the plate up to down on the bottom. And then you'll have a stud from that end down to this end. Now I'm putting mine tight against the stud and tight against the header because I've got, like I said, I've got height constraints. I've only got one top plate up there, and it's got to go in between that top plate, the bottom of that top plate, down to the floor. So I had to cut mine down a little bit, and I actually messed up. I should have cut the bottom and I cut the top, but next one I'll do it right. Yeah, I would have had to take this little plate out that's back here, cut it down, and I had to cut mine to so I had to cut my studs too. I cut this to 81 1/4 or 82 1/4. No, 81 1/4. I'm sorry. Looking through the camera, not that. 81 1/4 to fit in between the floor and the bottom of this top plate here. So, yeah, you'll cut, I hope I'm making this clear enough. You'll cut this bottom plate out from here to here. And then a stud will go on the back side of this. Like I said, I'm putting my stud up against this so I can actually, now you can take and give it a little bit of space. I would give it like maybe 1/4 inch and then shim it to be level and plumb. But I'm a fairly professional. I used to build houses. I'm fairly professional, so I'm going to put it right up against the stud. My measurements are going to be like right on the money. They always are. So I used to do trim work. This confused the crap out of me. Anyway, so and then, like I said, I'm putting this tight against that. It's a non-load bearing wall, so there won't be a load on there. Now, if it does have a load, what I figured out is I can put a metal plate on this side, from this stud to that stud, a little bit past it, and put another plate on the other side, drill holes and put bolts to them from side to side, and that will add strength. You don't want to put a whole lot of bolts, just enough, but that will add strength and give you a little bit of load bearing to it. But it's not that hard, really. Do not, I thought you had to take this piece off, and that was what you would see. But this piece is where the drywall goes right in there. Fits right up against that. That's 1/2 inch. And then once you do your finish work, you'll put another piece of trim on the top of this over. So I hope I've explained this well enough. I wish I had this cut out already and I could show you. One more time. You'll cut the bottom plate out the same length as this top roller header. You can even measure it first before you put that header on, and that way you'll have an actual measurement. And then install that roller header in there, and you might take a strip of wood and I don't know, I wouldn't know how to do that. Well, if you're loose, you want to kick this out to the wall and then kick that out to the wall when you stand it up. And that way it's up against the wall on each side. That way your opening will be correct. But mine's going to be plumb and level because the measurements will be right on. So I hope that helps. I hope this is a decent review. Have a good day.